What's up, y'all? Today I'm talking about all of the books that I read in the month of August. Now, I'll just go ahead and put a big disclaimer on this video that if you already watched my video where I read only Fat Rep in the month of August, this might be a little bit repetitive. So I completely understand if you don't want to watch this video, if it's too repetitive. I will also link that other video down below. It would mean so much to me if you checked it out. It was a really personal passion project of mine and it meant a lot to me. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out yet, it would mean the world. Let's go ahead and just jump in and talk about the books. So like I said, for the month of August, I did only read books that had fat main characters, and I did that because I myself am a fat woman and I really wanted to see more of what I understand and go through and think and feel in characters. So that's why I did that. So the first book that I read was actually Undead Girl Gang. This is by Lily Anderson. This book follows a teenage Wiccan, Mila, who is fat and she is feisty and intense and kind of dark and kind of gives off this like don't mess with me vibe. We jump into the story where Mila's best friend in the whole world, Riley, actually dies and she's grappling with her death. Just about a week before Riley dies, two of the mean girls in their school also died, which just seemed really suspicious all around. So Mila decides to bring Riley back from the dead and figure out what happened to her. Well, she also ends up bringing back the two other girls that died, and they kind of come back as like these weird ghost human zombie hybrids and it's kind of awesome. They form this like awesome mismatched friend group and they try to figure out what happened. We follow their story. It's really funny. I laughed a lot during this book. It's very satirical, but it also deals with hard topics like being fat or being an outcast in your community, losing your best friend. So definitely some hard topics, but I thought they were all handled really, really well. This was such a wonderful book. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I loved it a lot. Mila was tough and she was confident and she never let anyone really get to her. She clapped back every time someone hurled an insult her way, and I just loved her character. I thought that this was such a fun read. I loved the friendship group. I loved how the two other girls ended up coming back from the dead, and they were actually kind of like the mean girls in their class, and they picked on Mila and Riley, and so it was kind of this like unlikely friendship story that really worked out well. I loved this. I can't recommend this book enough. I think this would be the perfect read for October if you're looking for something that has those kind of spooky vibes but isn't scary in any way. The next book that I tried to pick up was Girls Like Me. This is by Lola Staville. This follows the story of 15-year-old Shay Summers, who is trying to cope with the death of her father. She's also trying to cope with having a bigger body and wishes she was skinnier. She ends up also going through a lot of bullying at school and then also ends up falling in love with a mysterious boy online. So we have all that going on. Unfortunately, I DNF'd this book so hard. I got to page 43 where I literally threw this book across the room. I was so annoyed with it. It's not often that I feel very passionately about not liking a book, but I couldn't take another second of reading this book. It's told in verse, it's also told in text messages. I was excited for that. I love different formats, but this writing did not work for me. It's almost like the author typed up badly written sentences and then just chopped them up to look like verse. And it wasn't poetic. It wasn't interesting to read. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand our main character right from the get-go. I know I didn't give this one a huge chance and maybe it gets better, but it was like nails on a chalkboard trying to read this book, and that never happens for me, so I was really surprised. I also mentioned this in my other video, but there was also a scene where our main character Shay was getting bullied by another girl for being fat. This other girl was thin, and Shay's best friend tries to basically stick up for her by bullying the thin girl back. And what he does is he sticks a picture of a model from a magazine on the thin bully's locker with a little like word bubble that said something like, "I need a cheeseburger." And Shay loved that her best friend did this, and I absolutely hated that. And it's very, very possible that Shay, learns that all bodies are good bodies, and maybe she learns that just because she's fat doesn't mean she has privilege to make fun of thin girls to make herself feel better. Overall, I was really uncomfortable with that. I did not like that at all. Didn't appreciate it. Couldn't stand this book. The next book I read, I also DNF'd, unfortunately, and that was 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl. This is by Mona Awad. This follows the story of our main character, Lizzie, who grows up being fat, and she starts dating these guys online, but they're asking for pictures and she doesn't want to send them, so she sets out to lose weight. So as she sets out to lose weight, I think she realizes that she will never see herself as anything other than a fat girl. I wish I knew how this ended. I honestly just couldn't keep reading it. The tonality of this book is very intense, very dark, very sad. You only want to honestly read this book if you're looking to read something like that. I definitely wasn't. I found it slightly triggering. It just wasn't for me. I wish I could say more about it. It's very possible that this is a good book and that Lizzie ends up like loving herself and going through this awesome transformation, but I personally just couldn't grapple with the really dark tonality of this book, so I DNF'd it. The next book that I read, I did not DNF, thankfully, and that was To Be Honest. This is by Maggie Ann Martin. This book follows the story of our main character, Savannah, who is fat. She has a mother who recently went on a show called Shake the Weight, which is essentially this book's version of The Biggest Loser. We jump into the story where Savannah is actually saying goodbye to her sister who's going off to college. Her sister is one of her best friends in the whole world, and Savannah now has to live with her mother by herself as she's finishing out her senior year of high school. As Savannah's mother comes back from this show, she has lost all this weight. She is crazy obsessed with weight loss, with making sure she keeps off the weight, with making sure her appearance is everything it should be, and she ends up projecting all of that onto Savannah as well. She shames Savannah, embarrasses her, does anything possible to try and convince Savannah to lose weight. Thankfully, Savannah is an awesome character, loved her, and she didn't fall prey to stuff like that. She was confident in her own skin, she loved herself, and she didn't allow her mother's negativity to change her mind. There's also a really sweet love story throughout this, which I absolutely loved. I thought that the love interest was awesome and wonderful and sweet and funny, and I loved following not only Savannah's story, but also her mother's. Her mother's story was a very important one, and she goes through a lot as well, and I just thought that this was such an impactful and powerful book. I totally recommend picking this one up if you're looking to try and understand what people go through during losing weight and doing it publicly. It's really great in a very sad way. Unfortunately, I saw a lot of myself in Savannah's mother, and it was really eye-opening. I loved this book, and again, totally recommend it. If you haven't read anything, or if you're looking to read something that has fat rep, I recommend this one. These lights are so hot. I really hope you can't see how much I'm sweating. I'm like not ready to talk about the next book, but I will. Let's just do it. The next book I read was 45 Pounds, More or Less by K.A. Barson. Ugh. Okay, I really did not like this book. This book follows our main character, Anne, who is 16 years old, and she is looking to lose 45 pounds before her aunt's wedding because she is a bridesmaid. Again, Anne's mom is really big into fitness and losing weight and projects all of that onto Anne as well. We follow the story of Anne as she sets out to lose this weight. She ends up buying this like weight loss meal system plan where they send the meals to your door and that's all you can eat. And then they also send you like a DVD on how to work out. And so she sets out to lose this weight and she does end up losing half of it. And seemingly that just solves all of her problems. That honestly was the biggest gripe I had with this book, is that once Anne began to lose weight, it was like everything in her life just magically somehow got better. Her relationship with her mom, her relationship with her stepdad and siblings, her love interest relationship, and fitting into her dress for the wedding, and all of this stuff. And it just was so not good. I thought this was such a problematic book with problematic messages that were not fleshed out well. I think the author tried. I don't think that this was intended to be something problematic at all, but it was like this book was marketed as being funny and witty and oh, she's such a relatable character, but my heart broke for her. She was still not happy by the end of the book, but she pretended she was. She literally said in the last paragraph that in pictures she looks so much fatter and like, I'm getting heated and scrambled. Basically, I just did not like this book for so many reasons. She also magically like a flip, there were about 3/4 of the way through this book, it was like a switch flipped in her mind and she just ditched the diet plan and ditched the meals and ditched the workouts, which is all good and fine, but she replaced it with this like self-restrainment of all of a sudden she had all this discipline to watch what she was eating and, oh yes, I'll have a piece of cake, but cut me a small one. And then like, oh, I'm not gonna do those workout DVDs, but I am gonna run. It was like they took dieting and put dieting in a bad light, but then they replaced it with being healthy and how like watching what you eat and restricting yourself and still working out, but not doing a workout DVD is somehow still not problematic. I'm not saying that you shouldn't strive to be healthy and do those things if you want to, but it was like she made it this thing to solve all of her problems when really it's just another form of dieting. And it's just as problematic, but almost sneakier. Hello, this is Editing Zoe from the future. What I meant to say, but couldn't say because I was so frazzled, was that what this book did was make it once again so that health looked like weight loss. At the end of the day, because she lost weight, she was still considered healthier and better and happier. And her mental health did not change. She was still upset. She was still sad. She still did not see herself in a positive way. And so nothing changed other than she lost weight, which is not a great message. I wanted to make sure I clarified that because I didn't do a very good job when I was recording it. I was so frustrated, but that's how I felt about the book. I just had so many issues with this. There was one point where she called eating like that normally and how she couldn't wait to just eat like a normal person. And it's like, overeating is normal. People do it. It's okay. Like, the fact that you're not saying that that is something normal is just not okay. So yeah, I didn't like this. I thought it was garbage. There were so many issues. I have so many like dog-eared pages where I just was like, are you kidding me? That's really where this is going? So, okay, I'm done. I gave this 1 star. Moving on to my favorite read of the month, and that was There's Something About Sweetie by Sandhya Menon. This was so good. I love Sweetie so much. So as I'm sure you can tell, this follows the story of our main character, Sweetie. She is a fat main character who is Indian American, and she's also this bomb track star athlete in high school. She's so cool. She's also an amazing singer. She's intelligent. She's funny. She's everything I want to be and more. I loved her. So funny enough, she also has a mother who is incredibly mean to her. Her mother refuses to let her date this boy named Ashish, who is thinner than her, because she thinks that it will be embarrassing for Sweetie and that they will get made fun of. So Sweetie defies her mother and dates Ashish behind her back. And that's really the story. So this also had just a great twofold message. First of all, the love interest, everything about it was so sweet and wonderful. Yes, like it's a little, like she did it behind her parents' back, but I don't care. I loved it. It was the right call. Like, she should have. I'm glad she did. Because her and Ashish were adorable. Ashish, I loved his character. He never had an issue with her weight. It was so awesome and like genuine. And I thought he was so wonderful. He wasn't perfect. There were definitely times where you're like, what are you doing? But he never saw her for just her size. I thought it was so cool to see that in a main character guy love interest. And then we also follow Sweetie as she's just trying to navigate being this awesome athlete who also has a bigger body and convince her mom that she is healthy and that health has nothing to do with her size. I loved the message in this. This is so on point. If you read any book that has fat rep in it and you're looking to get into that, you're looking to learn a little bit more, please pick this up. This makes so many good points to so many things. I could talk about it all day. I loved this. So wholesome, so fun. Great audiobook. Can't recommend this one enough. I loved it. And the last book that I read in the month of August was Big Fat Manifesto. This is by Susan Vogt. This one kind of reminded me of 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl in the sense that the tonality was kind of the same. It was less upbeat and more intense, a little bit more angsty, a little bit more angry, which our main character, Jamie, had every right to feel. She is fat in high school and people pick on her, make fun of her, put her down for her size all the time. She is a journalist. She's trying to get a scholarship for college, and so she's writing this column called Big Fat Manifesto, where she ends up calling out fat phobia and diet culture and all of the things that she has to deal with on a daily basis just because she has a bigger body. During this, she has a boyfriend who is also fat, and he is actually going to get bariatric surgery, where it's like gastric bypass. I think that's what it's called. I keep forgetting exactly what it's called, but it's a weight loss surgery. I was actually really surprised. I didn't know a lot about that surgery. It's kind of crazy to think about because I was considering that surgery for a long time, and I was like, could I get that? I want that. Like, I want to put myself through that because I just wanted to do anything other than be fat. And this was so eye-opening to see his journey through that surgery, and then also from her perspective. So when he ended up getting the surgery, there were actually complications, and they had to give him another surgery so he could breathe properly. And then a month after his surgery, he can't eat like regular foods, or he basically like foams them up. It was just so intense and real, and I was just surprised at how much I learned. With that said, I didn't really love this book. I thought Jamie was a little bit of like a negative Nelly all the time. That's okay, she's allowed to be, but that just wasn't what I was really looking for. I do have to say that this is a rare book where about after every chapter or so, they share her column that she's writing, and she writes some great statistics and personal experiences, and that was also really eye-opening. This is a rare case where I actually ended up really liking the extra stuff inside the book, not just the story, kind of a little bit more than the story. It's not that I wouldn't recommend this. I still think it could be an eye-opening book to read, but it wasn't my favorite. Also, there was some cheating that happened that I really didn't think was necessary. So overall, I ended up actually giving this like a 2 out of 5 stars. All right, you guys, well, those are all of the books that I read in August. I had a great month of reading in August. Very personal reading month. I'm so glad that I did it. I hope that this encourages you and inspires you to pick up one of these books, especially if you are someone who's fat. I thought some of these were just really encouraging and inspiring, and I read about women that were fat and lived in fat bodies and existed and thrived and had all these things and didn't think twice about it. And then if you're not fat, if you're someone who is thin, please consider picking one of these up and learning what it's like to live in a bigger body. I think that it could be incredibly eye-opening. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Please also tell me down below what was the best book that you read in the month of August. I would love to know. You guys are the best. I love you, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are. I'll talk to you soon in my next video. Bye!